Welcome back to part 2 of Flip the Script Battle of the Sexes. So, my name is Katrina, and this is Joy. This is Adri, Oscar, Josiah, and Eno. So, we are back with some more questions, and this time the guys are going to start us off. So, let's go.
Make it a good one.
Let's go.
All right, family. Next question. It says, does the man set the pace of the relationship? That's a bet. Lady, we got 2 maybes and 4. Am I counting correctly? 1, 2, 3, 4.
You are
4 yeses. So let's start with our maybes.
So I said maybe because I think that a man does lead a relationship, but as far as pace, that has to be something that we are both kind of on the same page with. If I am at a position where I just want to take it maybe a little bit slower, right? I'm maybe not ready to go full on like he is, then the pace is going to be where I'm at. If he's up here and I'm over here, or we're going to meet in the middle, pretty much, you know? But I think that pace and leadership are 2 different things.
Yeah, I agree. So pace, I feel like the man should lead, like you said, should approach, should pursue, should do all of those things. Once he's done those things, I feel like Joy's saying, that we together need to kind of be on the same pace in communication about what we're doing. But I don't want to put all of the ownership of the pace of my relationship on you, because let's say you're 10 steps ahead of me, like Joy's saying, and I'm kind of like, you know, you never know why I could be slower than you. It could be, I don't know, past hurt, or who knows, you know what I mean? So I think that, it should be kind of like that.
I kind of differ from my lovely female counterparts here. I do feel like, so if you didn't watch part 1, you should go listen to it. One of the things Josiah said at the end was, am I listening? And I feel like if I'm in a relationship and I'm trusting the Lord to let the man pursue, I'm also trusting that you're listening to my heart and the things that I'm sharing with you, that you're going to talk with me. And yes, you're setting the pace, but almost like we're setting it together, because you've taken what I've said, you're observing where I'm at, and then you're moving with me with it. I feel like in that, because you're in relationship and you're in partnership, I'm still letting you lead, and you're still out in front, but you're not moving at a pace that I can't keep up with.
Can I ask you a question though?
Sure.
Are you allowing every man that you date to lead you though? I think you have to get to a point where you're like, okay, I want this man to lead me. So I feel like that you have to be at a different level in your relationship to get to that point where it's like, okay, he's leading me, so I can trust that the pace is set by the Holy Spirit and we're on go together. But I think at first I'm like, pace is a little different, you know?
Absolutely. So I've always looked at dating and relationships very differently. And so I've only been in one relationship, and even then, we talked for 6 weeks before we even went on the first date. So I don't feel like dating, like going out on dates, makes us like in a relationship at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like we're still like figuring things out, and I feel like, yes, we're both hopefully listening and waiting on the Holy Spirit to figure out what's going to happen. And again, like we talked about in the first video, like we should each have a relationship with the Holy Spirit to be able to like figure out what the pace should be. So I feel like Katrina was talking about in that first video, like I think it was the first video. It feels like so much is going on. I just feel like, because you're dating with the mindset of marriage, you're looking at it as courtship. And because we talked about dating as the collection of data of each other, I feel like that pacing comes once you become intentional about saying, this is what the Lord is saying. This is where we're at together as one. Now we should be moving as one together.
Yep.
Do one of you guys want to share, or do we go on to the next?
Answer, brothers, answer.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the stuff that's been said. So I think in the marriage relationship, the man is the leader, should be the leader, and there's a certain alignment that should be adhered to, right? Christ being the head of the church, and then Christ being the head of man, right? And then, all things falling properly, correctly, the woman is submitting to within that alignment. But she has to, kind of like someone said, she has to trust and believe and be hearing and knowing that her man, is fully submitting to the Lord, right? So as far as like leading up to marriage, that's tough, right? Obviously both of you should be individually hearing from the Lord, right? You should be both seeking him out. And I think there's healthy back and forth that could come from one person saying, let's slow down, or, I'm not there yet. So that's kind of like my take on it.
I would say, first of all, for the man, it's necessary for him to be seeking out God's pace for this relationship, if that's the relationship that they're supposed to be in, and making sure that person that he's with is aware of that it's not just the man just being like, oh, let's go and do this, go and do that. So the person that they're with is feeling safe rather than feeling like he's just taking the reins. He feels this way, he feels that way. I don't know if he's actually trying to use wisdom, because ultimately, like, if it's not built on, if God is not the one building it, ultimately it's going to fall. So I think one of the the thing that men have to focus on, if it's talked about as men being the people who are setting the pace, it's like, what is God's pace? Because your pace can be completely different than what God's pace is for the relationship. Yeah. So
I think to both of y'all's points, I feel like, especially if you're moving dating into courtship towards marriage, if in those stages you're both seeking the Lord and you come to the table and you both have opposing approaches a lot of the times, like, that is probably a time to, go back to the Lord and be like, Lord, is this you? Where are you in this? And I think, because if pacing is part of the issue, then you ask the Lord to adjust you, right? You make that alignment. But if it's like you're both always coming to the table with, this is what the Lord told me, this is what he told you, and it never aligns, probably are out of...
There definitely should be agreements.
Absolutely.
I will add this before we move on to the next question. We've mentioned a lot of submission and leadership. And so for anyone who's watching and is like, I don't like that, man leading, woman submission, like, to be clear that a man leading is not a man who is authoritarian. His leadership is not authoritarian. So when it's not dominant. A man does not lead because he is dominant over a woman. That submission that y'all are talking about, if someone wants to, share on y'all's part. But from a man's perspective, that submission isn't like, you do as I say. Rather, a man needs a support. Like, we have fragile egos, and you have Billy Graham, who's the greatest evangelist that really walked this earth, but nobody knows of his wife. The only person that knew him to the core and any insecurities or doubts he may have had, only his wife knew, and his wife supported him in a way that none of us ever could. So there is no Billy Graham without his wife, and that's the support. And so this isn't like, do as I say or else. It's a matter of men recognize that this leadership position, this leadership authority that you're given, it's not a place of you demand. It's a place of you submit yourself to the Lord. And for guys, if you're not understanding that, who's a mentor, a man that you look up to, that you easily listen to them or you go to them for advice? When you see a man or a mentor or a coach who's been where you're at and they're successful, you are willing to listen to them. You are submitting yourself to their advice. And that's the exact same thing. Women, when they see that you are trustworthy, when you're consistent emotionally, spiritually, in all levels, they're willing to say, you know what, I trust you, I will listen to you. But when you are inconsistent, they have no reason and have no desire to follow you. So make sure you're not confusing this, I'm a leader, I'm the head, as you have power. Like, you, son, are under submission. Just like we are under submission to the Lord. So don't get twisted that there's a power that you get to walk over women, because that's not the case.
I think.
Yeah. Okay. No, I was agreeing. Yeah.
I think to your point, like adding scripture into that, Eve was brought to Adam to be a helpmeet, to help him complete. He had already named the animals. He had already, was tending to the garden. She was there to assist, to help him meet everything else that God asked him to do, right? You think about what the Lord told him, like, be fruitful and multiply. Like, that was, like, he couldn't multiply by himself. Like, he couldn't be fruitful on his own. I'm not saying, like, women's only role is to bear fruit. Don't at me. But what I am saying is,
y'all want her email?
There is power in submission. If we think about the fruits of the Spirit, self-control. There is power in self-control.
Yes.
There is power in choosing. Like, we as women, we don't even realize how much power we have in being the one to choose. Like, a guy can say, I want to marry you. Think about it. How many times do you watch proposal videos and guys are so excited because she said yes? You've been dating and in courtship for how long, and you're still so ecstatic that a woman said yes? Why? Because women have the power of choice. We have the power, and the power is
Say
in our
it,
submission.
Adrian.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think if you think about a good leader, you think about the managers that you've worked for, the bosses that you've had. The best ones you've had are the ones that delegate power to you. They delegate, they allow others to work with them, right? And I think that so often men are taught that they can't delegate, that they have to do it all, that they have to hold it all together. And it's like, no, like, to me, like, that is attractive if a guy can come down and say, like, listen, this I don't have, I need help. You take the lead on this part in our relationship because you do that better. You know what I'm saying? Especially like in a marriage, it's a partnership. Like, you a burnt out manager if you're doing it all by yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh man, that's great. All right, next question. Equally yoked or nah? Nah, just kidding.
Boy.
Oh, nah.
Decision.
Who wants to take a tackle at that? Why is equally yoked important?
Listen, before y'all start dropping nuggets and pearls of wisdom here, I'm gonna just use a sports analogy. Track coach, that's what I do. You want to be on the same track with somebody, hopefully running in the same direction in lanes very close, so you just merge. Like long distance, they hit that first corner and then they all get to cut in, right? You don't want to make your relationship any harder than it needs to be by being on the track running a 10,000 meter steeplechase and dating somebody that's over a high jump. I mean, that can really happen in real life. But spiritually, you don't want that, because you're not even in the same race trying to run the same pace and trying to do the same things. Like, why make life extra hard for you?
Anybody else? Or are you gonna leave it there?
I'm gonna say one more thing. So, like, if you think about yoke, it's literally, it's like there's two oxen, cattle, and they have weight on the weights. If both oxen are carrying the same weight, if one is going the opposite direction, it can make them getting to the destination that they're trying to go to, or whoever's destination is ultimately the goal. It'll make it harder to work out, So ultimately, it's going to cause struggle if there is somebody going in the opposite direction as you. It's going to be really hard to get to your designated direction. It's just going to cause a lot of struggle and stress. And so, unless they both come to agreement that they are heading in the same direction to the same destination, it ultimately won't work, and it can cause a lot more pain than it should. And it can also keep a person from wanting to, if they do, if that's the person who doesn't know Jesus, it could make a person not be able to be more receptive to the message of Jesus because of what you put them through. So I think that's key.
That's deep. So what you're saying is it's not equally yoked. It's not just, are you a Christian?
Yeah.
It's more than that. Ooh, that was strong. I like that. Okay, we're gonna move on. I put this one. I don't know why I did. Should you talk about your exes on the first date? No. I mean, nah, champ.
Nah, champ.
Nah, champ.
It's a no.
It's a nah. So we got two maybe. So we're gonna let our maybe speak on this one.
Okay. I mean,
Go ahead,
I'll
Doug.
just say that again, you may be going into this first date at varying levels. I may have known you before. And then not only that, but even if I haven't known you, there may be questions that come up just, in a conversation where an ex might be brought up. Like I might ask you, when was your last relationship? In that, I don't think that's a bad first date question. And I think in that, it may be, okay, so why did you guys decide to go your separate ways? I don't think you should go maybe into depth about your ex, but I think if it comes up, it comes up. I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about it in an appropriate manner, of course.
I agree with Joy. I think that it's all kind of fair game if you're just trying to feel the situation out. Depending on where you're at with who you're out there with, you definitely want to know. Especially like, hey, when did your last relationship end? Like, if it was 2 days ago, like, I'm wondering, like, yo, was there overlap? Like, were you healed? Like, what did we do? But then there's also, like, what did you learn from it? Like, if you were with somebody, like, whether it was a bad situation or not, like, you should learn and grow from every encounter that you have. So, all right, obviously it didn't end well. We're sitting here now. What did you get from it? Lessons learned in everything. You always want to grow.
Katrina, you said nah. So why? Give us the nah. You're our nah responder.
Okay, so I just think on the first date, I'm trying to get to know you. So yeah, that question can come up. But I'm not really trying to hash out like all my exes or whatever on that first date.
Right. Not all of them.
So I just
We don't
prefer to talk about that, second date or whatever. Now, if you ask, I don't have no problem talking about it, but I'm trying to get to know you, and I just don't want to harp on the past of, so that's why.
Cool. All right. Next question. On a first date, going out for coffee is better than dinner? We got 1, 2, 3, 4 neutrals and 2 no's. Oh, we got 1 no and 1 yes. Okay, so a divided house.
There we go.
All right, no.
Starting off hot here. I think again, it depends on your dating situation. But I also like to believe that a first date is, again, because I'm taking it as I'm letting the guy lead, letting him pursue. It's your opportunity, not so much to wow me, but to show me who you are, how you think, how you process, how you value me, how you're trying to pursue me, how you're trying to woo me. I'm not saying I need 5-star every time we go out, every date, everything like that. I just don't like coffee. So like, if Especially if we're getting to know each other and I like drop that in casual conversation and the first thing you want to do is like, hey, let's go to Starbucks, let's go to coffee. That's already shown me that you're not listening to me. And so that's a no. But by the same token, like it doesn't have to be like the first date is a great opportunity, especially depending on where you're at, to get to know each other, like you were saying. So you want it to be a setting where you can truly get to know each other.
Let's.
No,
We'll let the yes. We'll let the
he
yes
looks
go.
ready.
Eno's ready, so you're next. You're on the maybes. You
All
go
right,
first for the
so-
maybes.
I would say coffee would be a good date for the first time. I would say ultimately I think coffee can just be a place or like a coffee place would be a good place where you can just be able to focus on where a person's coming from and being able to hear who they are rather than thinking of the presentation and thinking about this. But then later on, you can start to bring in these different aspects of this is my, like also bringing up sacrifice. This is what I value in this way. I want to show you that I appreciate you. So I'm bringing you to this restaurant and I want to let you know this is what it's a form of me showing my appreciation for you. But ultimately, I think that the authenticity or being able to be authentic with a person and just being able to sit down and hear them out and just really get to hear their mind and what they think and how they feel, rather than being first date, you guys don't really don't really rock with each other like that, and then you're already paying this huge check, and it could ultimately make a person be like, are we really going this far, or even though mentally they don't really relate with each other. So I think that ultimately, I should get to know a person first before I start going and making just great, just these opportunities of me going and doing big things. I want to be able to understand and know who that person is and whether I should really go that far. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so I was a maybe. I definitely think it's situational, kind of like alluding to what Joy has said tonight. I think, if you're observing and getting to know, you can observe and get to know someone in like group settings, different spaces and places. And then your first date could be the restaurant, right? You guys can have come to an agreement that this is what we want to do. Let's move on out, right? But then if it's maybe not so more like that, if you don't really know this person too well, pay coffee. It gives you the opportunity to really relate, hopefully well, get to know each other. But yeah.
I'd like to throw a curve. Like, I think ideally, like we've talked about, if you're doing the group thing, I think obviously dinner, but I think ideally you would want to even set yourself up for success and do something in between. The card said coffee or dinner, but I would almost feel like lunch or like that coffee shop setting to where you can get to know each other. And if you like where you're headed, you're liking that vibe, then like extend the date out to like a part 2 of that day if you wanted to. But again, it depends on the situation, because for me, like, I hear what you're saying, like, do you really want to shell out that much money on a date for somebody and you're still getting to know each other? But because of the way I value dating and relationship and time and the gift that all of that is, like, I'm not even saying yes to going on a date with you if I can't potentially see myself with you to begin with. Like, why waste your time and your money? Like, I can go, do for myself. And so it's the joy of like wanting to be with you. So that's my.
Do bad all by yourself, huh?
I'm doing good for the kingdom.
we do
That's what I'm doing.
Boom,
Good all
boom, boom. For the
us
kingdom.
go.
For the kingdom.
It's the good for the
kingdom.
kingdom. I ain't out here doing that.
Amen.
That's so awesome. We are wrapping up part 2. We are so glad that you joined us again. And if you did not watch part 1, please go back and watch that.
Count that.
Okay. this is all in efforts to really just open up our community and create healthy dialogue and relationships between males and females. And we believe that is so important for growing in the kingdom. So we are thankful that you joined us, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Take care, fam.
Thank you.